Hey there, it's Imran and you're watching Imran Plus. Welcome back. Today we are talking all things Fantastic Four. We are just days away from D23 where it's rumored that Marvel is going to announce the cast for their upcoming Fantastic Four movie, and I am so excited. Can't wait to see who they pick because I love the Fantastic Four. They are one of my favorite superheroes. I've loved them since I was a kid. I love the original Fantastic Four movie from 2005 or whenever it was released, and I also really enjoyed Silver Surfer. But my favorite depiction of the Fantastic Four outside of the comics is the animated series Fantastic Four World's Greatest Heroes. That show is so good. I wish it got more seasons and more recognition because I think the way they characterize each member of the Fantastic Four is spot on, and the way they visualize everyone's powers was so good. And I really hope that Marvel takes inspiration from this animated series as well as from the comics in order to bring the Fantastic Four to live action. So in anticipation of Marvel's casting announcement, I decided to create my own cast list for who I would put in the Fantastic Four. I made 5 potential Fantastic Four teams with actors that I think would work well with each other and that I think would fit the characters that they're supposed to be playing. For each team, I had a little different approach as to who I was looking for. So this first team, I went with prestige actors that have won awards and are critically acclaimed and then are now going to join the MCU for these iconic roles. And so for Reed Richards, I decided to go with Adam Driver. And I went with Adam Driver particularly because of his work on Star Wars as Kylo Ren, as well as his work in Marriage Story, because I think those two elements really work together in creating a Reed Richards that is dark and brooding and contemplative. And I think that would be a really unique character for the MCU because Reed Richards has often, teetered on the line between hero and villain, and he can be pretty distant and hard to work with. And I think Kylo Ren's characterization, struggling with the Sith and like the dark side and the Jedi, the light side, would be a really good way to approach Reed Richards. But more importantly, I think his work in Marriage Story shows that he has the range to show someone who is in a relationship, part of a family, but that family isn't perfect and has problems and is dysfunctional. And I think that would be a really good dynamic between him and Susan Storm. Now, as for Susan Storm, who would I put next to Adam Driver? I went with Jodie Comer because she is so talented, and also her work on Killing Eve, especially the first few seasons, was phenomenal. That's why I kind of wanted Jodie Comer to be a character in the X-Men. Maybe someone like Emma Frost or Mystique. I think she would kill it in those roles. But then her work on Free Guy really changed my perspective on her as an actress. As for Johnny Storm, I wanted to pick someone that would have a good sibling relationship and dynamic with Jodie Comer. So I went with more of a little brother. So I would pick Skylar Gisondo for this team's Johnny Storm. And he's most recently known for his work in Licorice Pizza, but he was also really funny in Booksmart. I think he is funny and charming and has this confidence about him that's ideal for Johnny Storm. But also something really important to keep in mind is this is part of the MCU, so these characters are going to interact with others. And I think Skylar Gisondo is the perfect contemporary for Tom Holland's Peter Parker, who in the comics, Peter Parker and Johnny Storm are best friends, or really good friends. As for Ben Grimm, I wanted to pick an actor that is high caliber. And so after the recent Batgirl cancellation, I felt so bad for Brendan Fraser because that was supposed to be his return, his big comeback. And then I thought, Brendan Fraser would actually be perfect to make his comeback in the MCU as Ben Grimm, because I think he is massively talented and he has really good voice work, which I think this role will largely be voice work and motion capture. So his work on Doom Patrol would serve him really well for the MCU's Fantastic Four. But I really think that Brendan Fraser would bring a lot of complexities and nuance to the way Ben Grimm views himself, his struggle with how he looks, his appearance, and his identity. So really think the dynamic between these 4 actors would be really interesting and fun to watch. And I think this would be a really good Fantastic Four team. As for my second lineup, for these set of actors, I decided to go in a different direction. I went with actors that are not really big names yet because the MCU loves to cast actors that aren't A-listers yet and then turn them into A-listers. And so for this team's Reed Richards, I would go with Ben Barnes, who was most recently in Shadow and Bone. Ben Barnes has a brooding feature to him, and I think he would really look the part of Reed Richards. As for Susan Storm, with this version of Reed Richards, I decided to go with Annie Murphy for Susan Storm. She was on Schitt's Creek most recently, and I really enjoyed her work there. And I also think she really looks the part of Susan Storm. I think she would kill it in the role. And I also think that she would bring a warmth to balance out the coldness of Ben Barnes' Reed Richards, because I think Ben Barnes would be a cold, more distant Reed Richards, a more calculating Reed Richards, while Annie Murphy's Susan Storm would be more proactive and kind of the glue of the Fantastic Four, and would balance out the coldness with her warmth and compassion. As for Johnny Storm, with Annie Murphy in the role of Susan Storm, I decided to go with fan favorite Joe Keery as Johnny Storm for this Fantastic Four lineup, because I think that he would make a great sibling to Annie Murphy. And I think he has experience with the family dynamics from Stranger Things. He is in the same age range to interact with Tom Holland's Peter Parker, so I think that works there as well. He's not so much of a jock Johnny Storm that we saw in the original Fantastic Four movies played by Chris Evans, but he still plays this overconfident and cool Johnny Storm, which I think would be an interesting choice. As for Ben Grimm for this team, I decided to go with Oliver Jackson Cohen. This was an actor that a lot of people wanted for Moon Knight, but I think that his work on Invisible Man shows that he has the voice and also the acting capabilities to bring Ben Grimm to life. And I think he would do a great job with the motion capture. This is a really interesting team for the Fantastic Four, and I would be really happy if they went with this, because I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential for all of these characters. Now for my third lineup. For this team, I went with a twist on all of the characters, and I wanted to freshen up the characters and go with something different than we've seen before. And so for Reed Richards, I went with William Jackson Harper, who was most recently in The Good Place. I think that this version of Reed Richards would be more scientific and calculating, and he has experience with playing a very smart mind from The Good Place. And so I think William Jackson Harper would be really, really good, a good scientific mind to bring to the MCU. I also think that he has the acting chops to be able to lead a family. So I think this Reed Richards would be more of a positive role model and more of an MCU type of Reed Richards. In case they don't want to go too dark, I think William Jackson Harper is the perfect in between there. As for the Susan Storm to round out this team, I would go with Ana de Armas, actually, because I think that she would be a really good Susan Storm. She has this kindness and compassion that's natural of her, while also being very powerful. There's like this underlying power of Susan Storm, and I think Ana de Armas does a really good job of showcasing that, because she comes off as very sweet, but she can also be very deadly. And her work in No Time to Die and Knives Out are perfect examples of those types of elements that I think would make a really compelling Susan Storm. And I also think that she would just bring a freshness to the role while also looking the part. Blonde Ana de Armas as Susan Storm, you can't go wrong with that. So now this is really exciting for Johnny Storm. I went with Brandon Pereira, who was most recently in Nope. He delivered a great performance in Nope. He was very funny and showed that he can act. Brandon Pereira's Johnny Storm would be hilarious, and there would be such a great sibling rivalry between him and Ana de Armas' Susan Storm. I also think he definitely has the physique, and he was blonde in Nope, so I think he can pull that off. Now for Ben Grimm, I decided to go with Jesse Plemons, who is a high caliber actor and I think can bring a really compelling dynamic with William Jackson Harper's Reed Richards. I think that there can be a really strong friendship there and a good bond, someone for Reed to confide in and someone for Ben Grimm to trust. So I think that Jesse Plemons, who is, again, very talented, can bring a nuance and care to Ben Grimm while also having some fun with Brandon Pereira's Johnny Storm. So now for the next Fantastic Four team, I decided to go with a little bit older actors, because I think the MCU tends to reduce the age of their characters in order to have actors that can play the character for a longer time. But I think the Fantastic Four seemed like a family, and I think older actors might do a better job than younger actors. And so for this team's Reed Richards, I'm gonna go with Jason Sudeikis. And I know that's an odd choice, but I really think that he would be a good leader and the head of the Fantastic Four family. And come on, Jason Sudeikis with the gray sideburns of Reed Richards, I think that's perfect casting right there. I know we have had some trouble with fan casting with John Krasinski's Reed Richards, which I didn't think was terrible, but also not as good as a lot of us had hoped. But I think Jason Sudeikis really can bring Reed Richards to life. And also comedians are very, very talented actors who often can play darker roles really well. And I think Jason Sudeikis has the ability to do that. And so with it, Jason Sudeikis in the Reed Richards role, I think Rebecca Ferguson as Susan Storm would be a good balance. I think that she would be a great matriarch to the Fantastic Four. She has this leadership quality to her that I think makes her a perfect fit for Susan Storm. Rebecca Ferguson's acting experience in the Mission Impossible franchise as well as Dune bring a perfect experience with action and also intelligence and resourcefulness that I think would make Susan Storm really, really interesting. She played a mother really well in Dune, and so if they give the Fantastic Four kids, she would do a really good job there. And so since this team is not as young as the rest of the MCU, so I think for Johnny Storm, we have to go with Glenn Powell from Top Gun. I think he brings the hotshot jock element that would be perfect for this team's Johnny Storm. I think we need someone who's loud, overconfident, and just wants to have a good time, and I think Glenn Powell is the perfect choice for that. And so to round out this team for Ben Grimm, I would go with Jason Segel. I think he would really round out this cast very well. We have a lot of different personalities, and I think that's perfect for the Fantastic Four. And I think he can make Ben Grimm fun and funny and really interesting. I think Jason Segel as Ben Grimm is as close as the Ben Grimm from World's Greatest Heroes, who I love. And so Glenn Powell and Jason Segel, that's a really good dynamic. And so now we have my final Fantastic Four lineup, and this one is actually my favorite. I really, really like some of the choices in here, and I'm curious to know what you think. For Reed Richards, I'm going with Jamie Dornan. I think that he would do an amazing job as Reed Richards because he played a father figure in Belfast, and he surprised me actually in that role. I think he did a really, really good job. So I would like to see him be the head of the Fantastic Four here. He has this quietness to him that I think is perfect for Reed Richards, but also Jamie Dornan can act and can be silly when we need him to be, as he was in Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. So I think that this would be a really dynamic Reed Richards. He wouldn't be so stiff and one-dimensional. He can be silly and fun for when he's comfortable with his family, but also he can be, focused and disciplined when he's outside of that family environment. I think that this is also the perfect MCU Reed because it's a good dynamic of that, dark, cold, calculating character, but also a silly, fun character that can crack a few jokes here and there. And I think this, Jamie Dornan and Bruce Banner, would be such a good dynamic, and I would love to see those two interact in particular. Now for this team, Susan Storm, this is by far my favorite casting. I would go with Amanda Seyfried. I think she's perfect. She is the perfect Susan Storm. Amanda Seyfried is an amazing actor. She has a great body of work behind her, from Mamma Mia to Mean Girls to The Dropout, which she killed. I love that show and I love her in it. And so I think Amanda Seyfried is the perfect Susan Storm. And she also looks the part. Of all the actresses that I picked, I think Amanda Seyfried is the most comics accurate when it comes to looking like the Invisible Woman. And I think that it's time for her to join a big franchise because I think she would be an amazing Susan Storm. So who would I pick for this team's Johnny Storm? Well, given that we have Amanda Seyfried as Susan Storm, I would go with Cole Sprouse as her younger brother, Johnny Storm. I think Cole Sprouse would be a really, really good choice because he would be a great little brother to Amanda Seyfried. There's a little wholesome quality to him while also being fun and spontaneous and a little bit reckless. And I think, again, he would be a really good friend to Peter Parker. They're contemporaries, those actors are contemporaries. And he's also a younger option while also being a fan favorite and somewhat of a star. So Cole Sprouse and Amanda Seyfried, I think those are good Storm siblings. Now, finally, for Ben Grimm of this team, I would go with none other than Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And I am really excited about this choice because I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is very talented. He's a really, really good actor. 500 Days of Summer, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, Don John. He's really, really good. And I think he would also be down to do the motion capture for Ben Grimm. So I would love to see him because I think I could see Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jamie Dornan being friends, and I could also see Joseph Gordon-Levitt messing around with Cole Sprouse. I think that that's a really great choice. So those are my ideas for the Fantastic Four. What do you think of my 5 casting lineups? Who would you pick for your Fantastic Four lineup? And what do you expect from Marvel at D23 in just a few days? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. I'm so excited to discuss who we would cast in the Fantastic Four in the comments. I can't wait to see what you think. And I'm also so excited for D23. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great time. Lots more videos coming soon. But in the meantime, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Click the bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and fellow movie enthusiasts. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.